what that really means right now is that distressed property owners don't need to sell to investors. Like, cash quick, I need to close, get me out of this problem. I'm telling you guys this, they're hitting up the agents right now. The reason is they can get garbage on the market and they're still getting it sold, and really there's everything selling still. So this is this weird market for marketing where there's not a bunch of inventory and there's such high competition by investors to find the inventory that is distressed, that when I had my cold caller call a lot of the distress list, they're like, yeah, if I list it, or if I'm going to sell my house, I'm going to just list it with a real estate agent. And we need that to change as investors in order to find inventory. But when no one's moving and there is no inventory, it all creates this massive influx of different asset class problems, which is if pre-foreclosures don't start to occur in actual average real numbers, which in this county should be at least 15 to 30. If we don't start seeing 15, 20, 30, 40 pre-foreclosures and short sales start happening, there is going to be no inventory to flip houses. It's going to be like 1 to 2 to 3 deals a year for the average house flipper, which is enough for people who, are not trying to do it full time or just trying to make a couple 40, 50, 60, $70,000 in profit. But I'm bringing this up because how do you market as a real estate investor when the real estate agents are taking your deals and they're calling the exact same people, right? And I think what you need to understand is that whatever your unique selling proposition that you are trying to do is what made me think of tonight's meeting and why I should say it. You guys are all familiar with that HTTV and Tariq and House Flipping 101, all the different sequences of different episodes that he's had. I had a guy on my podcast last week who is a real estate agent at my brokerage and probably in the top 3 house flipping companies I've ever seen. I have another call with him on Friday. But why I'm bringing this up, guys, is that they're flipping, $10 million in property a quarter. Wow. A quarter. And if you do the math in LA, that's like $500,000 to $600,000 a house. So that's 20 houses. So that's 80 houses a year, 100 years. I think he told me he's flipped like 600 or 700 houses in the last 4 or 5 years. And he has 4 callers. I asked him, what's the number 1 lead source, right? What are you doing that everyone else is not doing? Or he says, calling. I call everybody. I call every subdivision. I don't care if they're distressed or not. I just call the entire subdivision. And I have to create deals. I need to find the deals that usually were not what flippers were looking for, right? Because it wasn't this highly distressed home, right? It was like, I can get 4 or 5 lipsticks going. And if I make 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 here or there, it starts to add up. And what I'm really trying to get at is that the model has changed. Reason? Because Open Door, Zillow Offers, all these other companies now that are willing to rehab properties. I had a client today say to me, oh, I sold my house with OfferPad. And I'm looking to buy, she's downsizing, but she had sold it completely with OfferPad, just got her check. And I was like, well, why did you not sell it on the market? Oh, it needed a bunch of work. Like I just didn't, my husband died. I didn't really feel like doing any of it. So they offered me, I think they offered her like 180 on a 220 house. And so why I'm bringing this up, guys, you got major hedge fund corporations taking your deals. You got real estate agents calling the exact same distressed properties and investment properties that you're looking at. And at the end of the day, as an investor, you're asking yourself, like, how the hell do I localize my investment capability when there's so much competition, but not enough inventory? And so wild card shift of conversation, why I'm bringing this up is I think all of you should start thinking about, if you're going to flip houses, flipping them in places people aren't looking. And what I mean by that is other parts of Oregon, smaller towns where you can run comps and see things and how fast things go. Because I just put a house on the market yesterday in Yoncalla, and today it's pending. 4 offers, all over asking. I would have never thought in a million years Yoncalla would have had that demand. So what I'm trying to say is, from a marketing perspective, start to do some research of these other smaller ancillary markets that are connected to the bigger market, where you don't really think there's deals to be had, or maybe it's not the profit that's been the ideal target that you've been looking for, and start taking more risk, but studying the market from a marketing perspective is what you need to do in order to be successful. And I mean that 100%, because when I ran comps for that house, I was waiting on 2 others to close. One went pending, one still sitting. Then I looked at 3 or 4 other comps and I priced it exactly where I thought it was going to be. And the client, and why this is important, is the client said, I think the house is worth $240. That's what I want for it. Me being an investor / agent could have been like, cool, I'll give you $250 for it right now. But I said, I'll list it for $285. They're like, whoa, there's no way you're going to get $285. First day, $285. Zillow, Redfin, all of the AVMs, the automated value of that property was the exact same dollar amount that I listed for. That was by chance. I did not look at those prior to me listing. I looked at them the day I listed and saw that it was the exact same price that I listed at. What I'm getting at, guys, is that there's demand in all different types of markets. There's opportunities to flip in all these markets, but you got to think about it, where these properties are being wholesaled and what we're getting sent to us: Albany, Salem, Portland, Albany, Salem, Portland, Dallas, Tigard, right? They're all these same like small little markets, and then a couple in the big city. And none of those wholesaling deals have actual real AVM, RVM, whatever you want to call it, calculations. There's tons of price reductions being had. And what I am trying to say is remove wholesalers from your marketing strategy. Go be your own wholesaler. Go find the deals, go study these smaller markets, look for the deals, look how fast the days on market are in those deals, and start calling. Because if you start building relationships with people now, and you can put, I always say, if you can put a marker on their back, like, hey, this is a distressed house, unless something drastically, or they win the lottery, this house is still going to be distressed in a year from now. And you start building relationships with those homeowners, when the market does get somewhat bad, or the market does slow down, that's when I'm going to say, from a marketing strategy or just a strategy, start deploying real estate option agreements. That is what I wanted to talk about today, is deploying real estate option agreements and locking those properties into a price and a term, which allows you to stick a fork in them on your board and say, I have this one. When the lady sells or dies, she's going to call me. I have first right of refusal in this time period for this amount, and it's not going anywhere. And you're going to start putting more and more and more and more pegs in your board until you got a dozen real estate option agreements out at the same houses all the real estate agents have been calling, at the same houses that are super distressed, that can't be sold with any type of conventional financing. And in the end, what you're going to have is a property that you've created inventory on. And did I freeze?
Yeah,
I froze. What is going on?
but you look really cool.
I do. I'm going to stop video, start video.
Hey, so can I just want to like chime in on this, because so for me, I had a wholesale deal that I did that started because of an in-call. I did not market to anybody in Pendleton, Oregon, but they saw my website, and I got under contract a house for $30,000. I got it under contract for $30,000.
I love it.
Piece of POS, right? It's a property in Pendleton, and I'm trying to find what I sold it for. It seems like I made $15,000 on it, so I sold it for 45. And of course, the investor who bought it was super excited. And I never went to Pendleton. I never saw it. I just
Love this.
sold it. Yeah. So
This is exactly what I was talking about.
this is exactly what you're talking about, except for that I didn't try. I didn't market it. All I did was say yes, yes, yes to the seller, right? And walk that thing through and find a buyer and that kind of stuff. So Dan, I think you are like totally like pulling out the weeds in my head and saying, yes, I should be marketing to Pendleton, Roundup, all these towns that are, in our opinion, where we live, maybe they feel like to us they're ghost towns, but there is.
I want to say why that's happening, because I think this is if anybody's listening to this as a pre-recording, they'll understand what I'm trying to say. In those areas, every single day, people have kids.
Right.
Every single day, people die. Every single day, people get sick and go to the hospital, and now the kids don't need the house, or they maybe live out of state. So life never stops, right? It just keeps happening. But the farther the divide between supply and demand, and what we realize in Lane County, guys, like it's crisis level for supply and demand for rentals. You put a rental out, even at a reasonable rate, 20, 30, 40 people are going to call you immediately. Right? I noticed in manufactured homes, if anything is under 30,000, I'll get like 40 or 50 calls. If anything is over 50,000 to like 80,000, I'll get 15 to 20 calls. People who have cash that are looking for affordable housing. So it's not only the rental market, right? But it's also the manufactured homes. Then it's that demographic of, can I get a home between 95,000 and 185 or 175,000? And it just don't purely exist in these towns anymore, right? And so when supply and demand are way off kilt, doesn't matter what the income level is of their area or the opportunity of their jobs, there's still people there that need to live. And because that is not changing, you can take a higher risk in these areas in order to do exactly what Grace did. I'm going to buy this piece of shit or whatever it is for 30 or 40,000 or 20,000, whatever. And I'm going to turn around and sell it because I know somebody within 60, 90 miles or someone who can commute to some sort of job is going to buy it. And if it's not somebody that's going to live in it, it's going to be an investor that's going to look at it for opportunity.
And another point to that, Dan, was that I wholesaled it. The only dollars I spent was for postage to send out the contracts to an attorney to start an eviction of the person that was living in there, the squatter. And so I did not buy it. I just sold the paperwork. I sold the contract. Yeah.
So on her note, from assignment to real estate option agreement and understanding how those operate,
Yeah.
right, is that some people are not ready to sell, real estate option agreement. Some people that are ready to sell, assignment of contract, if you're not interested in it. Some person is ready to sell and you want to buy, and it sounds like a reasonable, like owner financing type transaction. Really what I'm getting at is that if Grace went down and created a billion different sub pages for her website and started an SEO in all these small towns, if anybody searches for any of these we buy homes or sell my house quickly or whatever it is, right, from a search engine optimization standpoint, as long as you know the risk and reward and you know how things sell in those markets, what I'm really trying to get at is that I get a lot of calls about Klamath Falls from investors that are like, they can't buy here but they think Klamath Falls is like some hidden little gem because it's cheaper. And I always have to tell people it always depends on what your exit strategy is. And so from a marketing perspective, whether you call or send out direct mail, whatever you're doing, I think the best analogy that I like to use, and this is not my analogy, my friend used it. He said, do you remember when people used to mine for gold? And I said, yeah, what are you trying to say? He goes, remember those towns that were like booming because of gold? And he's like, Alaska, Northern California. He's like, go down the list, right? I'm not trying to be some super smart person here, but what I'm trying to say is this: the bars, the restaurants, the hotels, the horses that were being sold, the mules, whatever, all that stuff. It was all booming because there was something in your backyard that could be mined. As soon as that dried up, those people went elsewhere. They did other things. And from gold, went to lumber. And when lumber dried up in parts of Northern California, to be very honest, it went to cannabis, right? And every little opportunistic market that people traveled around and did is that the whole analogy I was trying to make is that if you're trying to find the same type of investment deal in your backyard, and so is 30 or 40 other people, you guys are all fighting over the same property, creating more demand and outbidding each other. And next thing you know, you're going to be doing 1 or 2 deals a year versus 10 or 15 deals a year. And as an investor, you have to make that risk and reward assessment. When the gold dries up and there's no more to be mined, and I'm not saying that's the case, there's people that are getting deals here, but from a perspective of fix and flip, start moving your boundaries out. And I think that ultimately gives you some more leverage to even what I've done in my real estate business on the residential side. I started advertising in some of these smaller markets, and then next thing you know, I'm getting listings there. Start doing listings there, start hitting up direct mail. That's on my list to do. I'm going to write it down right now, right? So all of that being said, what I want you guys to do is really focus on 2022. And we talked about this a couple of weeks or months back about planning, but really, where are you looking for those properties? It could be out of state, in state, whatever it is. Yes, Mike.
You just gave me an idea talking about gold, and it would be interesting if there was some way to source the information of where fiber and internet access is being built out. Or if there's a way to survey markets, you call 10 small towns and say, what's your internet situation? And if 2 of them say, hey, well, actually, we just cut a deal with Comcast or whatever, and in the next 6 months, we're going to have high speed here. The city council worked on it and everything else. And all of a sudden, that's where the gold is.
And by that being gold, just so I can clarify, people can now work remote there. So
Yep.
They're open to living there.
Yep.
I like that. And I give you what I want to give credit to what Mike just said, because it makes very perfect sense. From an educational standpoint, my own rental that's in Cottage Grove, they had satellite, okay, the previous tenants. And when I purchased it, I saw Charter going up the street. And one day I stopped my truck, and pretty much Ed will attest if he's listening to this, one of the funniest conversations I ever said is they were like halfway up this street that goes all the way to the mountains. And I stopped, and the guy was they were literally like, they had just poured the foundation of one of those boxes.
Yeah.
And they're out there, and it's like 3 of the guys. And I stop and I roll my window down, and I was like, hey guys, how much longer until you're at the top of the hill? And the guy was like, I don't know, man. It could be 6 months, could be 3 years. We're not sure. So about 6 months later, came back, and I was filling the other tenant, the other rental. There's 2 rentals on this property. I was doing the open house, invited some tenants to come and look. I saw the same guy, same road, servicing a box even farther up the street. And what I'm bringing this up is the same week my new tenants walked in, something hit their mailbox and said, hey, now there's new high-speed internet. Well, my rental, guys, one of the number one problems with my rental, the number one problem that everyone was saying while I was trying to fill it, was that the internet sucked and there was no high-speed internet and everybody had to get satellite or, HughesNet. The same week the new tenants moved in, they had high-speed internet directly to that rental.
And you doubled your rent.
I didn't double the rent, but what it allowed the person to do that was moving in and applying is that she could work from home. Boom, COVID hit. Now she's a University of Oregon student who can do her classes from my rental that's rural and be on Zooms that wasn't happening 2 years or a year prior. So Mike is exactly right. As the expansion of technology and as the expansion of Elon Musk's satellite internet, Starlink, if anybody's not aware of that, it's going to open more of these areas, right? And we're already seeing the get back to the what's the word I'm trying to say, like back to the country movement happening, because a lot of these rural properties, half acre, 2 acre, 3 acre, 5 acre lots. This is the first time in Eugene, guys, or Springfield. If you look up anything that is 5 acres, it's 500 grand. That's $500,000. You can buy a lot of houses all across the West Coast for $500,000. But this is the first time in a long time, $350,000 to $375,000 houses are selling for $550,000, $600,000 in the same damn market that it was about half the cost 4 years ago. So expand your geographical targeting. Expand it in SEO, PPC, expand it in your cold calling or ISAs, and expanded it, most importantly, in the knowledge of that market, right? Because you're going to look like an idiot if you call somebody there and you're like, oh, I should buy your house for 120,000. Then you go back to your computer and you're like, wait, everything's selling for 85. You got to know these markets that you're marketing in. You got to know what a 2-1, a 3-1, a 3-2 price per square foot. What's a manufactured home sell for? What does an acre of land sell there? What is a duplex rent for? What is a single family home rent there? You need to know these things. They take like 30 minutes and a cup of coffee to figure out. And I think that is what I was trying to stress today. It is expanding your horizons and making sure that you're not trying to compete against each other. Because what keeps happening for one of my clients is that every single damn time I write an offer on a damn rehab, it's the exact same damn people that I'm writing an offer against. Every time. I see the business card there at the showing, and then I ask the listing agent when I don't get my offer accepted to call me when it closes, and then I call them when it closes, or they forget, and I look up who bought it, and it's the same damn people every time. So there's opportunity here. That's just where you market or where you shift to. And let me preface one thing. All of that will come back full circle. When the market gets bad here and you can acquire for 30, 40, 50 cents on the dollar, yeah, you're going to buy stuff in your backyard again, right? When the market tanks, it will eventually. Hopefully you're poised enough to have your rentals in a row and you have good income coming in, then you can be more risky in your backyard. You can start acquiring properties. But
in today's world, what could be a driving factor of the market tanking? Because I know it's not going to be a sudden plethora of inventory. Would it be just interest rate change, or?
A solid indicator of slowdown would be a jump from 3.5 to 4.5, just 1 point. Another thing that would change it is if supply chain and manufacturing and service companies start to become more automized or automatize, whatever the word is, more robots, less people.
Automated.
Yeah. More robots, less people, less jobs. Don't need you to do this. Don't need somebody to put tape on a box. And next thing you know, some of these smaller towns that are purely relying on jobs that are blue collar is only what's left, what's required, right? And I think that, guys, semi-truck drivers, just mark my words, semi-truck drivers make a lot of good money. They buy a lot of houses in the United States. I know a lot of people who have bought a lot of shit with truck driving jobs. I have a client right now that I'm looking, he's pre-approved up to 550. That job is going to go away as soon as they make these things like computer generated, basically driving. So I'm not trying to elude some Terminator 2 outlook, but what I'm trying to say is that we need to be poised that a change in interest rates, inflation not matching up with everything else that's going on. And to be very honest, guys, if the United States government wouldn't have stepped in COVID and gave out all the paycheck protection, would have not infused billions of dollars into the economy. Just imagine, guys, a year ago, US government's like, no, we're not doing anything. Sorry, everybody fend for yourself. I guarantee you right now, we would be in the middle of a recession.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's that simple. And so I think
you're right on a lot of what you say. I have some friends that are economists, and they roll their eyes when they hear people say that the government should have turned in money. But I have a comment for you about the trucking thing. Having been a truck driver for almost 16 years before I switched and being a supervisor and stuff like that, the automated trucking that you're talking about is, most of us will be dead before that actually takes away all truck driving jobs. And the reason for that is even trucks that are automated right now still have to have a driver in them to manage them. Now it's a different type of job, because they're not necessarily controlling the truck, but there's that's a long ways away. And the other thing is most truck driving jobs are local and require different routes every single day, and we're not at the point where we can program that yet. Just kind of fill that in. You're right. Eventually, it's going to go away, but it's a long. Yeah, it's a long ways out. Truck driving jobs will be there for a long time, and they're good sources for people to make money.
I 100% agree. I feel that eventually a big ass Amazon Prime airplane is going to go out in the air, and all of a sudden a million little drones are going to pop out. And next thing you know, there's going to be no United States Postal Service dropping off my box. It's going to be a drone.
So it's Oregon, you have to understand, they like to think they're there in the 21st century, but they're not. That actually is happening in a lot of the bigger cities on the East Coast, where they have drones and stuff like that, where they have I think there's like 3 cities now that they do delivery by drone, things that drones can carry. Amazon does. It's a long ways away from being available in Oregon, though. Oregon resists everything, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, just how they are. But yeah.
No.
One of the comments I also wanted to make when you were talking about looking for other things and not being in the backyard, being a real estate agent also, that's why I came down here. There's a lot of stuff to look at. And yeah, it costs a little bit more money to travel back and forth and come and do things down here, and it takes a little bit more time. But if you're willing to do that, there's opportunities, a lot of opportunities in places that people aren't looking at. I mean, right now everybody's looking Arizona and stuff like that, but there's stuff in New Mexico around, and people aren't really looking in New Mexico. People aren't looking here in Louisiana yet. So there's places if you want to do the travel.
You're an airplane ticket away from any type of real estate deal in the country.
It's a 40-hour drive down here. Straight through.
a full work week of driving to get there.
Well, Mike and I didn't stop, and with two of us driving, we did it in just under 35, but I can do it by myself in 40.
35 hours. Holy smokes. Wow.
It's only 2,600 miles.
Man. Did you guys even like stop to pee or poop?
Yeah, but you do that when you're filling up for gas.
No. That's crazy.
And Grace, you said you'd like to see the place. At the end here, if Mike will let me walk around with his computer, I'll walk around and show it.
Yeah. Well, I'm done. What I want to talk about is expanding your horizons. Take it or leave it, kids. Let's see this place.
Good job, Dan.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. All right, I'll try to do my best to show this. So this was a bathroom in here that was, as we're walking through a closet, that was really long and awkward. So we're into as you can see, we have this wall that we built that was sheetrocking. And we made a walk-in closet as you go into the bathroom, and then turned it into just having a shower and a stool, because there was a leaking whirlpool tub in here. There was a lot of plumbing problems, but this is then the master, where we're kind of storing things, and Mike is kind of staying. There's another walk-in closet behind there that's about as big as that one, and then the kitchen, we're putting subfloor in. We got the countertops put in yesterday. So we're doing the sanding around the countertops so it can get ready for paint. The windows were the big thing that Mike has been working on for the longest time. They were supposed to be 32 inches, and they sent us 34. And rather than waiting the 6 weeks for new windows, Mike just tore everything out and redid everything on all the windows and did a fantastic job. So this is our other bathroom that we just have to finish sheetrocking. Everything is in, everything works. We just got to get the purple rock in around the shower. Then the living room and dining room, which this is the wall that you heard me talk about earlier. It kind of was out a little bit and kind of making a little like breakfast nook area. And up above was all glass, single pane glass as a header, and all the sheetrock was exposed to the outside. So it was all mold and everything. It took 2 hammer swings to take down this whole section of wall. So I put in a patio door, squared it back off like the original. We had to fix the roof, obviously, right there. So it is a 3-bedroom. This is one of the other bedrooms. Once again, a window. And then the last bedroom back up front here. Ouch! We have to finish sheetrocking. But this is where they had to do all the roof, kind of tilted up, all the roof repair. This was all leaking in here, and this was a big cost. So to fix the one wall and the roof cost me $21,000, and that was half of my budget of what it's going to cost to fix this place.
Holy smokes. So,
yeah, but it's another about $22,000 to do everything else, including appliances and the countertops and everything like that, all the plumbing. Really, I didn't think that was so bad. If it didn't have the roof problems. We did do some stabilization under the floor to make it so that the house didn't rock a little bit, because it is a pure house. And like I said, it sits on just over 1/3 of an acre. So I got it for $85, and I should, like I said, by the time I'm done, I'll have realtor costs and everything. I'll have just over 150, and she thinks she already has a person that she's working with that would be interested in it, and she's done comps again, and we're at 225 with our comps. So, but it's a quaint little place, you know. It's but yeah.
Yeah,
Just-
okay. I have a couple of questions. Did you say it's a pier house?
Yep,
So it's on posts?
yep. So it sits about 3 feet.
Okay, and
Yep.
then the roof is very expensive, 22,000 to re-roof it. Does that mean you had to get new decking put on and some new rafters, or?
Yes, they had, so included in the $22,000 was the wall that I fixed also, because they had attached that to the roof, and it ripped part of the soffit and everything. That all came down. That was all rotted. So basically, about 1/3 of the soffits were rebuilt. There were 2 trusses that had to be rebuilt up there. Then, because the front of the house is an addition, so there's 2 different roof lines. That was all done wrong when it was roofed, so that was all rotten and had to be, scabbed back in and fixed. So there was a lot. That's where all the damage was. And then, like I said, the rest of it is.
So Scott, it sounds like you've done a lot of work there, but I don't think you've been there that long. I mean, how long ago did you buy it, and did you find contractors easier to find there than you find them out here and willing to work and that kind of thing?
So my dad's best friend for over 30 years has been doing a lot of the work, and he's a handyman by trade. So I closed on it at the end of May. And I came down here the first week of June and did about 90% of the demo, and we got about 90% of the floor stabilized in that week. And then I was down here once with my wife. So people who know my wife, Sue, as you know, she can't see. She helped pull up all the floor. So she got to experience what construction was, at least a little bit. And then we were down here for a week, and that's when we got most of the roof redone. The roofer that we got really did a good job, but to get him here and get him to stay here working, I basically had to threaten to sue him. So I won't be using him again. I have a realtor down here. She says the guy that she uses just didn't have time to do the job, and next time I'll definitely use him. But Darren, he'll come over here and work. He's not the fastest guy, and sometimes he does things a little backwards, but when he's done doing something, it looks right and is at the end is done right and is solid as hell. So I certainly can't complain. I was hoping that I didn't realize the windows were going to be so much trouble because I didn't realize they made them too big. So we lost a lot of time there. So I was hoping to be farther along in this couple of weeks that Mike and I were down. But we'll have a lot of the projects. The house is yellow on the outside. My realtor says leave it yellow, and then we'll paint around the windows white, trim around white. So hopefully we'll get that done, and we'll get the bathrooms completely finished. Is what we're hoping to do before we come back.
Well, it looks really good. The framing looks great. The interior trim and all that looks really good, and looks like a high-end kind of rehab, a higher end. Yeah. So you're saying that realtor says it will go for $225? Yeah.
She's done a couple of. She does a lot of different type of real estate work, but she has a couple other flippers that she works with. So she knows. So I bought this house and had her and Darren look at it. I didn't see it until I came down, and but she knows what she's looking at. And when you talk construction with her, she understands it, right? She's not going to swing a hammer because she's a kind of a girly girl. I like her a lot, but she's a girly girl. She likes her makeup and likes to dress up, but hey, she knows what. When I say we're pretty long, she understands.
It just goes back to what Dan was talking about in the very beginning about going outside of this market to run your business. Yeah. So congratulations.
Thank you. This house was actually not on the market. It had been taken off the market, and she knew of it and was kind of holding it as back pocket type thing for another one of her flippers, and I came along and she got it put back on the market, and I snapped it up. So
Look at you.
yeah.
Great.
They also wanted $120,000 for this place at first. So yeah.
Good job, man.
Thank you.
I commend you for taking a risk, jumping in a car with Mike of all people for 40 hours, and and being able to take it on by its horns, man. That's awesome. I love this stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I